them to feel they have control over the things that happen to them. All very important. Now, the asset framework, is it incidental or intentional? It really isn't anything new. We already do most of these things with our students anyway, really. It's not a program, but a framework with which to work with students and to help them. Marilyn Peplow, who is the instructor that taught the training of trainers class that I took in Minneapolis, uses a picnic analogy to describe the difference between a program and the framework of what developmental assets provides. A program might be analogous to a soggy paper plate, trying to fix the problem, but the more issues you provide on it, the soggier it gets, and things fall apart and they end up in your lap. Where the developmental asset framework is really there kind of like a Chinette plate to promote assets, promote success in all youth. So it's not just the problem children we're focused on, but it's everybody. And that really fits into the ASCA framework as well. And the aspect of the idea of intentionality is important. The framework moves us from incidental, we just happen to be encouraging the kids, to intentional asset building, and really doing things with kids that helps them to be successful. So at this point, I'd like to share about a 7-minute video with you directly from the Search Institute, just to give you a flavor for the kinds of things that they're talking about. Don't go away.
She was very interested in what I had to say. She made me feel like I was important and that what I did mattered.
He knows what I can accomplish, and I guess sometimes I forget that, and he helps me out that way.
I really, I'm going to miss her next year when I go off to college, and I'm going to keep in touch with her because she has built such a great bond with me.
Well, I think that, and I hope that every young person has an adult in their life that they feel had a real impact on their life.
I don't think teachers realize the impact that they may have on students by the positive messages they can give students and the confidence they instill in them.
She would be the person who really believed in you, and she told me that I would be a doctor.
And for me, it was like a prize. It's, an award. Oh, I'm going to that amazing classroom.
This lady made us dig deep because we couldn't wait to go to that class so we can, hey, I got this, I found this. We're going to get it today, man. And we always started with, we the people say. And I think that was probably the best teacher that I ever had.
It was real important that he was a person, not just a teacher. And as I think about what my responsibility is as a teacher, I see Chuck. And he taught me that you have to live it.
Schools today are faced with incredible pressures. On the one hand, there's pressure to achieve academically, to increase standardized test scores, to meet state standards. And on the other hand, there's an expectation that schools are going to be dealing with preventing drug use and violence and a whole lot of different health problems. And just to do one of those is really hard, but to do both of them is almost impossible. That's why I was so excited when I came across the developmental assets model. For the first time, I saw a model that had the potential to reduce violence and drug use, and at the same time, it could increase academic achievement and performance.
I think the beauty of the 40 developmental assets is that it's not a program, it's not a curriculum, but it's a reframe on how we engage and how we develop relationships with children.
Well, the developmental assets are opportunities, skills, relationships, and values that are building blocks in the lives of kids. They're really important for young people to succeed. Let me give you some examples. Kids who have 3 or more adults in their life who care about them, who spend time with them, who encourage their gifts and talents, those young people are more likely to grow up healthy. And kids who have boundaries at home, at school, and in their neighborhoods, Those boundaries help kids know where the limits are and help them to do the right thing. Some of these assets are closely linked to academic achievement. As an example, kids who are bonded to school and who go to school in a caring school climate, they're much more likely to come to school, and they're more likely to do well when they do come to school. And young people who have the interpersonal skills, they know how to make friends, they know how to empathize with others, they also do better in school. Now, when I first saw this list, it immediately resonated with me, probably because it was consistent with my own life experience. But in addition, what was really powerful is that there was a research base behind each of these assets.
What they found through their research is that students who have more of these assets participate in less risk-taking behaviors and end up having many more healthy behaviors.
It has been part of our tradition in our school to work on building values in students and asset building. We just didn't initially use that language, and now that we've gotten the information from the Search Institute and have really gotten some of that data to support some of the things we're doing, it's helped us with our focus.
Well, I think in Minneapolis, one of the things that we've done is first we've gathered some information from Search Institute about the number of assets that our students have through some surveying of students grades 6 through 12. You wouldn't have to make that as your first step, but it's sort of a needs assessment that lets you know that your students don't have as many assets as some adults think that they do.
The staffing team needed to make a shift because we're so used to looking at children from a pathological model. We look at what's wrong with children. And we spend a lot of time and a lot of energy looking at that. We made a shift to look at what is right with children.
And there's one boy at my elementary school who has many handicapping conditions, ADHD, sensory motor, speech language, learning disability. And he's doing a lot of acting out because he just doesn't feel good about himself. And we were struggling to find what could we do to make him feel better about himself. And finally, after a day of working on this, the speech therapist came to me and she said, you know, this child, let's say his name is Max, does fine in my group. And she was the only teacher that had something positive to say. And I said, well, what's different about your group? And she said, there's 4 kids in there who are all younger than he is. And he loves it. He's king of the mountain and he helps out. And so this was an area where he could be helpful and feel good about helping others, which is a great asset to have. So a light bulb immediately went off in my head, and I arranged for him to go volunteer in kindergarten 2 days a week. And he feels so good about this and so responsible. In fact, just last week, I was in there watching, and the teacher said, he knows what he's doing. He said to me, I've got it worked out. I've got my plan with them. And she said, you just keep doing exactly what you're doing, Max, because you're doing a great job.
I think an important part of this is it's not just something for leadership or classroom teachers. Everyone in the building has a role in it. And students find as much value out of their relationships with the custodians and the secretaries and the playground monitors as they do with classroom teachers. I mean, those people are just as important to building assets.
I love to go out at noon and walk. I like to walk, and I like to walk in the building because I like to walk around the building and make eye contact and talk to the kids I know and try to get a smile out of the ones I don't know. So I think as adults, that's what I can do anyway, and that's something I really enjoy, whether it's here in school or out in the community.
One of the things when you look at asset building is not only are kids loved and valued, but that kids have to be able to feel confident that they can achieve. And that causes the whole package to work. That I feel good about myself and I'm achieving. The feel good about themselves was working. The next part was to say, I can achieve. And so one of the things we needed to do was build an understanding and a belief that all kids could achieve. And so we began to take a look at what we needed to do to have that achievement happen. And we had to bring both those pieces along together. The valuing, the caring, the asset building, along with the achievement and the expectations. We've had over a 25% point jump in our achievement scores. We've been able to do that. And we've had some pretty significant accomplishments over these last 3 years.